Many at-home workout routines hyper-focus on the upper body. You might be grinding out daily push-ups and building a solid chest and arms, but leaving the legs out of the equation creates a severe physical imbalance. To fix that, we are going to walk through a strict 4-movement blueprint. This routine builds proportional, dense lower body mass without stepping foot inside a commercial gym. You do not need specialized equipment to execute this. A heavy backpack, some water bottles, a sturdy box or stair, and a bit of floor space are the only physical tools required. But before we begin, there is one absolute rule for this protocol. Because we are working with limited household weight, execution speed and strict form must supersede the amount of weight used. Rushing through the motions is not an option. When you train at home, you cannot rely on massive iron plates to force adaptation. Prioritizing perfect mechanical tension, controlling the muscle entirely through its full range of motion, is the primary biological trigger that will force your legs to grow. Step 1 focuses on the anterior chain, specifically the quadriceps. The primary engine for this development is the loaded squat. To set up correctly, plant your feet slightly wider than shoulder width and point your toes outward. Keep your chest elevated to maintain a strong, upright torso as you prepare to drop your hips backward. As you lower yourself, you must control the descent. This diagram compares muscle fiber engagement during the movement. When you drop too fast, the muscle loses tension, bypassing the work. A slow, deliberate descent keeps the muscle fibers fully engaged. Clutch a heavy backpack tightly to your chest, or hold your water bottles, and target 4 sets of 15 to 20 slow, deep repetitions. By controlling that downward, eccentric phase, you accumulate the necessary microscopic muscle damage. Mastering the descent is what actually builds raw pushing power, rather than merely the act of standing back up. Step 2 targets the back of the legs, the posterior chain. To counterbalance the squat, we use the Romanian deadlift, or RDL, to isolate the often neglected hamstrings. The RDL requires a strict hip hinge. Hinge your pelvis backward, keeping your spine flat. Allowing the spine to round forward is a major failure point. This shifts the load from the hamstrings, placing severe, shearing force directly onto the lumbar discs. Keep your back locked and lower the weight until you feel a deep stretch in the back of your legs. From that stretched position, squeeze your glutes and drive your hips forward to explode back to the top. Aim for 4 sets of 15 repetitions. Locking your spine into that rigid position actively protects your lower back, while forcing the hamstrings to absorb and adapt to the entire load. Step 3 addresses the structural decay that comes from modern sedentary habits. Weak glutes lead to poor posture and lower back pain, which we can correct using the glute bridge. Lie flat on your back on the floor with your knees bent and your feet firmly planted. From this position, drive your hips directly upward toward the ceiling, pushing strictly through your heels. Once you reach the top of the movement, pause. You must hold a rigid, maximum contraction for a full 2 seconds before lowering your hips back to the floor. Perform 4 sets of 15 repetitions. If the standard bridge feels too easy, lift one leg completely straight in the air and execute the movement unilaterally to heavily isolate each side. By eliminating bodily momentum and forcing a hard peak contraction at the top, you systematically rebuild your pelvic stability and restore your overall postural integrity. Finally, step 4 of this routine tackles the calves. Poor calf development is easily blamed on genetics, but we are going to force adaptation using a loaded calf raise on the edge of a stair or a thick, sturdy box. Stand on the edge of the step with just the balls of your feet. Control your weight as you let your heels drop all the way down toward the floor. Achieving this deep deficit places the calf muscle under a maximum stretch. From that bottom stretch, drive explosively up onto your tiptoes. Hold that absolute peak position for a full second, and then carefully control the path back down. Many people fail here because they rely on bouncing out of the bottom position. Bouncing utilizes the elastic recoil of the Achilles tendon, much like a snapping rubber band, which completely bypasses the muscle fibers that you are actually trying to activate. To counter this, come to a complete dead stop at the bottom of every single rep. Grab a heavy water bottle in each hand for extra resistance and execute 4 sets of 25 strict repetitions. Forcing the muscle to contract upward out of a dead stop stretch is the physiological tension required to make even the most stubborn calves grow. Now that the physical mechanics are set, we have to look at the biological reality of this process. The workout itself only provides a damage stimulus. It is your external environment that dictates your actual growth. Rebuilding that damaged tissue requires specific raw materials. You need clean protein to repair the muscle fibers, healthy carbohydrates to replenish your cellular energy, and dietary fats to maintain a balanced hormonal baseline. Look at this chart tracking muscle protein synthesis. The elevated line shows the high synthesis rates occurring during an 8-hour sleep cycle. The flat line below it shows how heavily that cellular process is blunted when sleep drops to 4 hours. Muscles do not grow while you are training. They grow while you are asleep. Securing 7 to 8 hours of deep, uninterrupted rest is a non-negotiable biological requirement. You can execute the physical routine with absolute mechanical perfection, but if you pair it with a toxic diet and insufficient sleep, your body will lack the resources to yield any physiological adaptation. That is the complete blueprint. 4 strict biomechanical movements, the squat, the RDL, the glute bridge, and the calf raise, paired with a dialed-in recovery protocol. Consistency is the final variable. Lower body muscles require significant volume to grow, meaning that skipping a single leg session delays your systemic progress by an entire week. It is time to step back from an upper body only approach and actually execute the foundational volume your legs require. Decide right now how you will scale this routine. Take a moment to commit and drop a comment below detailing what household object you plan to use for resistance today. Building a powerful, proportional physique does not require access to a commercial gym. It is ultimately a test of your intellectual discipline, your form,